research proposal and synopsis. Dear students, as researchers, we are required to go for writing down research proposals and synopsis at times, in your master degrees, and I'm sure that for your MS and PhD, you would be required to go for writing down research proposals and synopsis. So in this session, we are going to talk about research proposals and synopsis. So research proposal is basically an outline of a proposed research work, right? That how you are going to conduct a particular research study, right? So the outline of that research study is called research proposal, right? Research proposals are written, for particular, objectives, like for an academic degree. Like for your MA degree, you may be required to write down your research proposal, and it could also be written for, winning a funding, budget, right? Because there are funding agencies who also ask for research proposals because there are competitions, and researchers then submit their proposals for particular funding opportunities, right? So for funding opportunities as well as for academic degrees, we are required to submit research proposals and synopsis, right? So a research proposal is basically, a useful basis for the evaluation of a research project and guidelines for researcher, okay? So there are, of course, guidelines available, not only from universities who ask for research proposals, but also by those funding agencies like the Higher Education Commission of Pakistan or any other funding agency. They provide you with some guidelines beforehand when they ask for research proposals, okay? So the guidelines are available, and in this session we are going to talk about those guidelines which are required for writing down your research proposals and a synopsis. Research proposal is a clear and concise statement of the problem, right? So a research problem or the statement of that problem, that is the basic component of a research proposal, right? So research proposal is always based on a very clear and very concise statement of the problem in hand, which is to be addressed and which is to be solved, right? So your statement of the problem is the starting point, introduction to that problem, and then your solution, which is, of course, technically speaking, that is called hypothesis. So you are to provide those statement of the problem very clearly, very concisely written, and then, of course, if there is any hypothesis, that is to be mentioned, okay? Then the research proposal is also required to include the recognition or the significance of the problem, right? So how important it is to answer that problem, right? So you are required to provide a justification or the significance of that problem, right? So that is also a feature of research proposal. And the definitions of the important terms or terminologies which are used in your research study. If you are using technical terminology, then you are required to define them in your research proposal, okay? And that is the time where you would also define your variables of the study, or maybe the constructs of the study, right? Or any assumption involved, right? So your variables, assumptions, and your constructs are also to be defined in your research proposal. Then if there is any limitation or limitations involved, right, any weakness of the study, as a researcher you think you should mention, is also to be mentioned in your research proposal. That is to be written in your research proposal. Your research proposal typically includes, among other things, a brief survey of related literature, right? So there is something which is, the historical context of the study, and that is to be provided by the researcher, okay? So the historical context or brief survey of literature is mentioned there. And then an analysis of proposed research procedures, right? So a brief introduction to those steps which are involved, to those procedures which are involved, they are to be mentioned in this section as well, which is the part of your research proposal. And you can also, and in some, in some proposals, you are particularly required to mention the time frame, okay? The proposed time frame or time schedule which is involved in your research proposal is mentioned to the, to the authorities who are to evaluate your research proposal. So these are some of the components, some of the features which are, to be included in your research proposal and synopsis.